Hello, my name is Gopanandan Parthasarathy and I'm a first year gastroenterology fellow at Mayo Clinic in Rochester. Today I'd like to discuss a paper of ours that has recently been accepted for publication in gastrointestinal endoscopy titled Natural Language Based Tool for the Diagnosis of Serrated Polyposis Syndrome. I must mention that this project was done when I was an internal medicine resident at Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland under the mentorship of Dr. Carol Burke. Why were we interested to do this project? Well, there were two reasons. Number one, we had recently created a clinical decision support tool based on natural language processing to improve adherence to guideline-based recommendations for surveillance after colonoscopy. And with the increasing use of artificial intelligence and such clinical decision support systems in medicine, we recognized that such a tool would be powerful in other scenarios as well. Reason number two was that there was a problem in the diagnosis of serrated polyposis syndrome, or SPS as I will refer to it. SPS is important because it is the most common polyposis syndrome, with an estimated prevalence of 1 in 127 to 1 in 242 patients undergoing colonoscopy. It is also a cancer predisposition syndrome, with 70% of patients with the diagnosis of SPS who will carry a diagnosis of colorectal cancer either in the past or in the future. However, the diagnosis of SPS is based on clinical criteria issued by the WHO. The initial version came out in 2010 with a recent revision in 2019. There are two criteria, one of which must be met for the diagnosis of SPS. The first criteria, it requires the presence of at least 5 serrated polyps proximal to the rectum, all of which are at least 5 millimeters in size, with at least 2 that are larger than 1 centimeter in size. Second criteria requires the presence of greater than 20 serrated polyps throughout the colon, at least 5 of which are proximal to the rectum. Now, the important thing about these criteria are that they can be met cumulatively across different procedures over time in the same patient, and therefore it requires systematic tracking of colonoscopy as well as pathology findings in the same patient by the clinician. And not surprisingly, that is one of the main reasons why the diagnosis of SPS is missed. We know from the literature that although the prevalence of patients referred to a tertiary center of SPS is about 4%, only 50% were actually diagnosed or suspected to have SPS by the referring clinician, because again, it requires cumulative tracking across time. So what we decided to do was use this natural language-based tool to cumulatively accumulate the colonoscopy as well as pathology information that we have for patients undergoing colonoscopy at the Cleveland Clinic. We started out with 250,000 plus patients who underwent more than 340,000 colonoscopies between 1998 and 2016. And we used natural language processing to extract both the colonoscopy as well as the pathology data for all these procedures. And once we had this data set which accumulated this information across time, across different procedures for the same patient, we were able to then use the WHO criteria. I must mention that we used the WHO criteria from 2010, which had 3 different criteria that could be met, but we excluded criteria number 2, which in fact is no longer in use, which required the presence of a family history of SPS. So using the WHO criteria, we identified 71 cases that met at least one criteria for the diagnosis of SPS. And what we did was we manually reviewed these 71 cases to verify the accuracy of this diagnosis. Looking through, we saw that the diagnosis was inaccurate in 5 cases, but in the overwhelming majority, in 66 cases, the diagnosis was accurate. And indeed, once we broke it down, we saw that in 38% of these cases, the diagnosis had in fact been made by the clinician as well. However, in 5 of these patients, the natural language processing tool made the diagnosis earlier by at least 2 years than the clinician. In 26% or a quarter of these patients, although they did not receive a formal diagnosis of SPS, they were being followed up closely for a high-risk polyposis syndrome. And shockingly, 36% of these patients who met the criteria for SPS were not diagnosed based on clinical history by a clinician, either by the endoscopist or by the referring provider. So in summary, what have we demonstrated? We think we have now a natural language processing based tool that can improve the diagnosis of serrated polyposis syndrome. Number one, it can make the diagnosis with a good degree of accuracy. Number two, it can make the diagnosis earlier than a clinician would make the diagnosis in many cases. And number three, it compensates for the missed cases that a clinician would otherwise not have picked up, because again, it requires cumulative tracking of colonoscopies and pathology information across time for the same patient. In summary, I think this demonstrates again the strength of artificial intelligence and computational systems that can automatically extract data from the electronic medical record, that can automatically collate data and serve as an adjunct to the clinician in making diagnoses such as serrated polyposis syndrome. What do we have for the future? Well, we envision that such a tool can be incorporated into the electronic medical record, either as a standalone system or as a support system that, for example, flags the chart of the patient when they are beginning to meet criteria for a high-risk polyposis syndrome, thereby alerting the clinician that, hey, something is afoot. Perhaps this patient may meet criteria for a syndrome such as SPS. And indeed, this has long-term implications, because not only is close surveillance warranted for these patients, their first-degree relatives are at risk for colorectal cancer, and the patient themselves may be at risk for extracolonic cancers as well, which is in fact something that we noted in our study as well. In conclusion, we're excited to this opportunity to publish our findings in GIE, and I thank GIE for this opportunity to share our findings via video. Thank you very much.